What's going on, everybody? As you know, for starters, the land acknowledgement. I am recording this here on Pt.2 territory, otherwise known as Albuquerque, New Mexico, and together let us continue this fight and struggle for black and indigenous liberation. As always, back in black, back-to-back Action Zachariah Jazz, and this is It's Controversial. So, I'm going to follow up on yesterday's upload, yesterday's topic, the school board rules, administration hearing, whatever, and a lot of the backlash that it got in opposition to what folks would like to call critical race theory, and the white conservatives flexing their racist muscles. So reporting from KRQE showed it hasn't always been favorable to the movement, right? To the more left-sided ideology and political campaigning, or whatever you want to call it, right? They haven't been so friendly to us. And they had something, they were just touting, a lot of the opposition narrative in this reporting. So I'm gonna go ahead and read you the article. So, critics of New Mexico's proposed overhaul of the social studies curriculum decried the standards as racist and Marxist Friday in an online hearing and on the street outside the offices of the state education department, holding signs like "My children identify as American." A few dozen protesters, including Republican gubernatorial candidates, took turns criticizing standards, which include adding ethnic studies and introducing children to social group identities starting in kindergarten. One protester outside the education department offices said he would homeschool his 7-year-old if the race and ethnicity portion of the curriculum is implemented. Quote, "My daughter won't be a part of it," end quote, said activist Philip Munson of Rio Rancho, adding that identifying group identity starting in kindergarten, as the standards propose, quote, "take away from the common values we're trying to instill," end quote. The Education Department's proposed social studies curriculum updates topics in history for the first time in 30 years and is based on recommendations from educators it convened this summer. It plans to publish final standards this spring to implement a new curriculum in fall of 2023. Friday marks the final day of the public comment period, culminating with oral feedback in an online forum. Education Secretary Kurt Steinhaus said Thursday that the department won't extend the public comment period, which at least a dozen school districts have asked for. Many letters expressed concern over resemblances between new standards that require students to learn about racial identity groups and so-called critical race theory. An Albuquerque grandmother read her letter out loud at the protest on Friday. Quote, "This is blatant ugly racism," end quote, said Ruth Ann Peterson, arguing that the proposed standards teach critical race theory by using words like inequity and racism and phrases like unequal power relations. Public Education Department officials insist that they have no intention of having K-12 teachers teaching critical race theory, dismissing it as a college-level legal concept. State Republican leaders have planned a protest outside Education Department offices in opposition to the focus on race and objection to the education officials' decision to hold the oral comment from forum online instead of in person. Others support the expanded focus on Native American history as well as elements of the plan they see as anti-racist. Sylvia Miller Mutia, an Albuquerque reverend and parent of 3, wrote in support of the proposal to expand ethnic studies in the curriculum and other elements aimed at humanizing oppressed people to avoid perpetuating racism and stereotypes. "Thank you for working to make history education in New Mexico more just and anti-racist," end quote. In over 1,000 pages of public comment received by the Education Department in the past 45 days, there's an issue that has received more mention than race: personal finance. The letters stem from a lobbying effort by Think New Mexico, a nonpartisan education policy group that wants money matters updated in the social studies standards, which include economics. They want students to learn more about debt, savings, and investment. New Mexico conservatives are finding new energy in the critical race theory debate after it was credited for tipping the scales toward a Republican winner in the recent governor's race in Virginia. Quote, "Virginia should be a wake-up call," end quote, said Elisa Sanchez, speaking against the proposed standards in the Zoom meeting. Outside the Education Department offices, one Republican candidate handed out flyers billing herself as the only candidate who can beat Democratic Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham in a heavily blue state. Candidate and businesswoman Karen Bedoni, who is Navajo, decried parts of the social studies standards that ask students to discuss privilege based on social group identity. Quote, "We are not said to be victims consistently," end quote, Bedoni told the crowd of around 24, adding that educated, many paper degrees people are telling us how we need to think. Native American intellectuals across the state disagree and say the proposed standards are crucial to providing education to indigenous children that allow them to see themselves. So this is kind of pandering to more conservative ideologies. It's certain grammatical choices, word choice, right? Dismissing it as college level legal concepts, but because it's not dismissing it, it is, but teaching kids to not to call it, racial ethnic grouping, or what is it? What do they say? Where is it? Race theory, blah 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 blah. About racial identity groups and so-called vertical race. Right. Whatever. Sorry, I can't talk, I guess. So it's basically like saying, not wanting to teach people about who they are, or teach kids about who they are, where they come from, and why they look different. It's like saying, like a white person saying that they don't see color when they're trying to defend themselves for after they said something racist. It's like, I don't see color. It's like, well, I want you to see me for who I am, so you can understand who I am, and you can better learn how to interact with me. And I want to learn about you, so I know how to interact with you in kind. Teaching kids this is not wrong, and it should never be labeled as something as self-victimizing, right? Like this Navajo woman said, and there's another part that I wanted to speak on. Where is it? Where'd it go? Blah 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 blah. One protester outside the education department said he would homeschool his 7-year-old if the race said no, that's not it. Holding signs like "My children identify as American." Well, guess what? Me too. I'm an African American. I was born here, right here in New Mexico. That is a state, just like everybody else that was born here. And so, yeah, we identify as American, but I'm a black cisgendered male. So, straight cisgender male, of African descent, and then I am an American. That's my identifiers. So, these people use ridiculous opinions and thought processes to continue to fight against these things. So, LRU put out, the LRU is La Raza Unida, put out a call to action, a media blast. Let me pull it up. Can you make from LRU? Can you make a phone call / write a comment? Tonight, Channel 13 News reported on the meeting. I attended 4 hours of it, and those who made public comments seemed to be about 50% in support and 50% opposing. But Channel 13 chose only to quote those who opposed. They didn't even mention that anyone supported it, which that's not all the way correct. They did quote, somebody who is in support of it, but they didn't really. Word choice kind of shows that that's not what they are for. That's not the side that they're backing. They're obviously in opposition to, if you could read the article, you could just tell, especially if any little bit of intuition can tell you what they support. The problem with the local news reporting, only accusations by opposition, is it gives the right wing and these white supremacists an even larger platform and amplify their voices to thousands more people. It also completely not factual to not mention that half of the people were in support. I just called Channel 13 and gave my feedback on the poor reporting. In past, I've seen enough people do this. They will update the story. So it says, would you be willing to make a call? The number for KRQE 13 is 505-764-5240. Or if you're not comfortable, you could go to their Facebook page and comment under their story. You can read the Channel 13 report here, and I will link that in the comment section of this video. So You heard them, LRU putting out the call to action. Let's get them, you know, let them know that we are in support of teaching children about themselves. It's just not to tell anybody that they're racist for the color of the skin, just inherently racist for being white, because that is not true. It is opposing these things, this curriculum, even if it's not being taught as critical race theory. The rhetoric surrounding the opposition is in and of itself racist. Still, that's irrefutable. Because what is the problem with teaching kids about where they come from and who they are and their history? What's wrong with that? You must have something you want to hide. Not teaching kids, especially white kids, about what has happened throughout history indirectly and passively allows these things to continue. Because that's where society really starts. We start from when we're really young and then become the inheritors of the world and the handling of it and how things develop. So if we teach kids from a very young age that where we've been was wrong and where we're going we want to be right, is crucial to equity and equality in the future for future generations, because we're just laying the groundwork right now. And we've been laying the groundwork for centuries, and there was something else that I wanted to touch on too in this article. Let me find it. Come on, you slow phone. Oh my goodness. Well, it was saying, one of the parents in opposition to it says these aren't the values that we want to instill on our children. What, so you would rather them not know about their past? Where, it's just another example of white supremacy. They don't want their kids to know that it was wrong so that it can continue. So they can continue to push their ideals and beliefs onto their children so they will never question it. And they are especially afraid that if revolution were to ever happen and they would be torn down from their ivory towers and their privilege stripped away from them, that we would ultimately treat them how they've treated us. Like apartheid South Africa. Because it was largely ruled by white dictators until Nelson Mandela destroyed the apartheid, and now the black people in South Africa are the upper class. And a lot of white people are poor and starving, living in poverty and building their own camps and stuff. I seen a documentary. It was crazy. It was pretty backwards. It was hard to believe, but it's true. And that's what they're afraid of. We don't want that. I personally don't. I just want to be equal to. I want people to stop locking their doors when I walk by, or white women to stop clutching their purse when I walk by. I want to stop being looked at as a threat and somebody always treating me like I am. I want people to walk past me or drive past me and give me a genuine smile, or just a good morning, or how are you, and passerby. That's all we want. We don't want, the cops to turn our guns away from us and start shooting them. No, we just want them to stop shooting us. Because we have a right to due process. Kyle Rittenhouse is getting his. Even though he was only 18 years old and walking down the street with an AR-15 after killing 2 and injuring 1. But again, like Philando Castile, he didn't get his right to due process and even then he didn't do anything wrong. He was legally carrying a firearm. But the cop just scared because he's a black dude and he said he's got a gun. So he opened fire. That's what he's trained to do. How is that fair? That's not equal. That's not equality. That's fear and bias. That's what we're fighting for. And so let's make some noise. Let's keep up the energy, and show these people that there's no place for racism anymore. So I've kept you here long enough. I love y'all. If you would like to support my work, here's my Cash App and PayPal as always. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. And woohoo.